Cloud. Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Jersey Collective Reads. I am your host, Courtney Preiss. I am hosting this episode / live conversation solo tonight. Carrie is under the weather, but she sends her best. We send our best to her. And we are really excited to be talking to Rachel Harrison today. I just had a conversation with Carrie last week, actually, about how much we both loved this book. So excited that Rachel is here. I am going to let her introduce herself. And then I have a long list of questions. I'm just dying to hear from her. So, Rachel, if you want to give us your intro and tell us a little bit about Black Sheep, Vanna White Moment, Rachel's latest, her fourth novel, that was recently released from Berkeley.
Thanks, Courtney. So I am the author of The Return, Cackle, Such Sharp Teeth, Black Sheep. I've also wrote a story collection called Bad Dolls. I'm originally from New Jersey, from Mount Olive, New Jersey. Now I live in Western New York. And yes, Black Sheep came out September 19th. And it is about Vesper, a cynical 20-something who is estranged from her family. She left home at 18, left the very strict religious community she was raised in, and was essentially excommunicated because she didn't participate in the faith. And she never thought she would ever go back home until one day she comes home to find an invitation on her doorstep to her cousin Rosie's wedding. Rosie was her closest friend growing up. They were more like sisters than cousins. And Rosie is marrying Vesper's ex-boyfriend, her first and only love. And so out of what she thinks is spite, but is probably more than that, Vesper returns home. And this is a horror novel, so the homecoming does not go particularly well.
Okay. And usually, I mean, I typically have so many like kind of origin story questions that I like to start with, but because this is Jersey Collective Reads and because this is a book club for New Jersey authors and books set in New Jersey, I need to know, how did you decide that Black Sheep was going to be set in New Jersey? Like, what was that thought process like? Did you draw inspiration from real places that you frequented growing up? Would just love to hear more about the setting specifically before we get into more about the book.
So I really wanted to write a Jersey horror novel, obviously, because I'm from there and I grew up reading Weird New Jersey. There's a lot of Jersey lore that I'm very familiar with, and a particular piece of Jersey lore fits into the concept I had for Black Sheep, which I don't want to get into because it's a spoiler, but big Jersey legend kind of ties into Black Sheep. And as far as places, it's interesting because I know who's from like North Jersey, because there is a theme park that I bring up in the book called Imagination Land that is based off of the land of make-believe in Hope, New Jersey. And I was talking to my friend about it the other day, who texted me. She's like, land of make-believe. She's like, I like how you changed the name but didn't change the town. I was like, it's too perfect that it's in Hope, New Jersey. And actually, it's funny because my editor is also from New Jersey. And so when she was reading the book, she was like, oh my gosh, this is land of make-believe. And we had the same experience where we went as kids and we're like, it's this magical land. And you go back when you're a little bit older and you're like, ugh, it's like, it's very, in the book, it's pretty it's pretty much even like there's a candy cane forest, there's a pirate ship, like kids wading pool, there's like a really creepy, weird Santa hut. But like you're young, all of these things are magical. You don't notice the like things floating in the wading pool
The
and
grime caked on every
yes.
surface. Yes.
And I joked with you about this where I almost drowned in that lazy river. And sometimes I say, I almost drowned in a lazy river, literally and figuratively. But that it was at Land of Make Believe. So if you've ever been to Land of Make Believe, you'll know reading the book, I think it's an easy connection to make.
Well, it's funny because I had a question for later on for what I call my like goofy portion of the conversation. I did have a question about theme parks. So we will come back to Land of Make Believe. It is too perfect that it's in Hope.
You know what
that
we
could have
need to
been
do?
changed.
We need to write a horror novel about Action Park.
Stop. This is what like my dream.
Except
Real,
it's not there anymore.
I mean, there is something there. They had changed the name back to Action Park for a couple of years. I think in like 2017, 2018, they like briefly changed the name back and then went to another format. But there is something there. It is not nearly as dangerous. Jersey Collective heads will know. We interviewed the son of the owner who who wrote like the book, like the book on Action Park earlier this year. So if that's something that anyone out there is interested in, please click through to the YouTube video of us talking to him because he had some wild stories and like really spilled the tea. But yeah, like Action Park was made for literature, which is an opinion that I know like you share with me. So
I think like an Action Park slasher would be really fun.
hard agree. Um, we have an affinity for New Jersey theme parks. We will come back to the New Jersey theme park of it all, I promise. I do want to talk a little bit about also before we move on. I that like portion that you mentioned that like we're not going to talk about because it's a spoiler, like that's never occurred to me. And just like for the audience, Rachel's one of my very like close personal friends, and I've read this book. I love this book. We've talked at length about this book like while she was in the process of drafting it. I've been in conversation with her at bookstores, and like that didn't even occur to me until you said it. So this really is a Jersey book. Okay, wild, mind blown. Okay. I do want to go back to Vesper for a little bit. You write very close first person for all of your novels. It feels almost like, and I imagine you don't actually do this, but it feels like you're going method and like stepping inside the character and inhabiting them. Vesper is such a unique character and has like such a strong voice. In the first chapter, her coworker is like, you know, you're not pretty enough to be this mean, and like you're really pretty. She's such a striking character. And I'm just curious like what her origin story is for you, how she came to you, how you stepped into her voice, what made her click for you. Oh my God, did you just see my Alex Earl light go out? Guys, sorry. Shout out to Alex Earl, who's from New Jersey. Anyway, Vesper's origin story.
Vesper is a tricky character because so when I'm like the word that's coming to mind is conceiving of my books, but like that sounds wrong. When I conceive my books. When I think of my books, I usually like come up with a concept, what I want to write about, and then have to find the right voice to tell that story. So usually it came easily. Like for the first 3 books, like my protagonist was there waiting, like just appeared. and like didn't change or anything like that. Like their voice came to me, it was strong. I took it and ran. With Black Sheep, I really struggled to find the right protagonist to tell the story. It's a really high concept book for me. Like now that it's like done and in the world, it doesn't feel like that. But at the beginning, it was pretty much just strong concept, and I had to build everything around it. And I needed somebody to carry that big concept. If you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, once you read it, you'll be like, oh, that's what she meant. She had to be a very specific blend of unlikable, and you had to root for her, even though all of the signs, like, you shouldn't root for her. So it was tricky. And I wrote like 2 drafts of this book with a different Vesper. And then my agent, Lucy, and I had a talk, and she was like, what if she worked at like a chain restaurant? And that was the moment where everything clicked. Like when I put her in Shorties and wrote that opening scene, that's when I met her. But it took me a while. It took me like a whole draft of this book that was different to find her and meet her. So she's tricky. She's elusive, but she showed up eventually.
I love that she showed up specifically through Shorties, because Shorties is such like a potent, I want to say, it's more than like a setting in the novel. Like it's really a motif, like the callbacks to Shorties throughout. It really ties it together. So I'm just a big fan of the fictional franchise, like would absolutely go if I had the opportunity to, and B, you know, just the fact that she's coming to us through like bits of flair, like that's so meaningful for a Jersey girl. My lighting is going to be different for the second half of this conversation. I'm so
Did it
sorry.
not work anymore?
It like the battery died. There's not a lot of stamina in this. Let me see if I can just pull up like a bright screen to like brighten my face up a little bit. Okay. Anyway, back to this. So as we've already established, this is going to be a spoiler-free conversation. We are kind of talking around a lot of the novel, which is a unique challenge. I don't know that this was necessarily like a challenge in talking about some of your previous novels when they came out, as much as like we really want to avoid spoilers for this one. So in the interest of preserving the book for anyone in the audience who's yet to read it, we know what you had told us earlier about the premise of the book. She's back in New Jersey. There's this like compelling aspect about, you know, her best friend and her childhood sweetheart. But the sort of like darker undertow of everything is that there is this deeply religious, some might say cult-like community that Vesper grew up being a part of. You know, she hasn't spoken to anybody there since she was basically excommunicated as a teenager. So I'm curious to know not like your relationship with cults, but like your relationship, I guess, with like cult media, and sort of like documentaries, books. It feels a little messed up to be like, ooh, like what's your favorite cult? But like any sort of like organization that compelled or inspired you when you were putting this together.
So I love cults. No, I find cults fascinating. I really like that very human desire to belong and to feel part of a community. That's something I really relate to, and it's such an innocent, pure desire. And to just watch it turn into something so sinister is really intriguing to me, because I feel like I'm very vulnerable and suggestible. Like if I'm sitting across from someone and they're telling me something, I'll be like, really? And so like I know that I would 100% under the right circumstances join a cult. Um, so it just, to me, it's almost like every time I watch it, it's like helping myself be prepared to not do that. Um, I love a cult documentary. I love like if it's I in the past getting interviewed about this book, I'll be like, I've seen it all, and then someone will bring up something obscure, and I'll be like, what? So I'm not going to say I've seen them all, but I've seen the big ones. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think the Nexium cult has been very fascinating over the past few years. Um, just very bizarre. And like I can never see anyone playing volleyball again without being like thinking of the Nexium cults. Um, yeah, and then I saw the documentary. This is an occult documentary, but Hail Satan, which I believe was also on Hulu. And it got me thinking a lot about religion and perception of faith and America as a Christian nation and certain challenges to that. So all of these things kind of just live in my head and my own experience growing up in religion, and all of, I, for me, it's never just one inspiration. It's usually a lot of conscious and subconscious little nuggets.
I was gonna say you put me onto the Hail Satan documentary. I think, and I loved it. Um, it really surprised me. I think that I went into that one like not quite knowing what to expect, and I really really enjoyed it. It was like very eye-opening, and thought-provoking, but not in the way that I thought it would be. And I think around the same time you recommended, I'm like embarrassed, I can't remember the name of them. Is it Heaven's Gate?
Yes,
That's okay. They're like
that's the one within the
the
Nikes.
Nikes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
You,
tea and dough. Yeah.
yes. Oh my God. Yes. Okay. So you recommended those like around the same time to me. And so I'm just like, Rachel really knows her stuff. Like Rachel like knows all the cult documentaries. So I'm surprised that you've been interviewed and somebody's brought up one that you haven't seen, because I would definitely trust you as the resource. Um, yeah,
I draw
definitely.
the line some places. Like people ask if I've seen Shiny Happy People. That's the one about the Duggars or the Dugars. And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah, no.
I haven't watched, like, that one is too, I don't know. Something about it turns my stomach.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, it's, there's,
The zanier it is, the more I can enjoy it. Like Wild Wild Country is one of my all-time
mhm.
favorites because there's like a zaniness to it.
I know. I don't want to be like the one with the Duggars is like too much Saurus, because like obviously all of the cults have like their own level of that, but like it just seems like too
Yeah,
dark.
there's something about it is a little bit like, I don't know.
Yeah. The
Like
last
give
time
me something a little bit wacky. Like, you know, throw some Xenu in there. Like I want to know about
100%. If Leah
volcano.
Remini is a talking head, like I gotta see it.
Yeah, give me something a little bit, I want to hear if you have a cult, like use your imagination. I want aliens. I want like, like I don't know. Yeah.
I relate to this. I'm with you. The last time we talked about this in public, I announced in front of a large crowd of people, I'm a Manson girl, and like didn't think
But
about
like at
this
least
coming out
well,
now.
I'm not gonna as I'm about
Like,
to defend.
defend the Mansons.
No, but like there was like an interesting, like they lived on Spawn Ranch. Like there's something
Yeah.
interesting about it versus like these people, I don't know, the Dugars who were on like TLC. That doesn't compel me.
Well, yeah, they're like, I'm trying to defend us for being into the Mansons, but it's just like that's like mainstream culture, right? Like that's like mainstream culture, reality TV, just like with like a dark side.
Yeah.
And the thing with the Mansons was this was the counterculture. Like they drafted off of this like cooler, like hippie movement, California vibe going on. And then it was the dark side of that.
Yeah.
So,
There needs to be a little bit something more fascinating than it's just being tragic, you know?
I'm totally with you. I also appreciate your candor and level of self-awareness to be like, I would totally get drafted into a cult. Like I
Except
I admire this
sometimes
about you.
sometimes I think about there was like rare moments in my life that I've really put my foot down about people. So maybe not, but generally speaking, I'm pretty open.
If the
I wouldn't
cult
like if I wouldn't go into any van, you know. They'd have to have good energy.
if the cult leaders were any of my ex-boyfriends, you would have put your foot down about them for sure.
It's true. Yeah.
Noted on the record. Um, we'll move away from the cults for a minute. I do want to talk about Constance Wright, who is Vesper's mother in the novel. Um, so compelling to me. Speaking of compelling dark figures, so compelling to me. She's a former Scream Queen horror movie actress. She is just a star on the page. Like you did such a great job of creating this like vibrant textured portrayal of her. It was hard to believe that she's not a real person. Like I felt this like, even obviously being conscious of the fact that I'm reading a novel, that I'm reading a work of fiction, like I felt this like itch to put the phone down and like Google her and like see what she looks like. um but yeah, I was very into like everything about her surrounding her, the way that you described her look, the sort of like textures surrounding her, her furnishings. Um, I'm curious about how that character came to you, and if there's any sort of figures in pop culture that you drew inspiration from. I have joked with you about this before, but like I'm really bad at fan casting. Like I'm so impressed with people who do a good job fan casting while they're reading novels, because I'm just like every novel is like set in like a house that I used to live in, and like the characters are, when I read about Constance Wright, I'm like, yeah, she's like the beautiful mean queen in Snow White. Like that's what she looks like, the cartoon. So I'm curious to know if there's any like real figures in pop culture that you drew inspiration from.
I think thinking about like a Nev Campbell or a Jamie Lee Curtis. I saw Rachel Weisz as Sophie in my novel Cackle, and I still could kind of see Rachel Weisz as Constance. Just like any dark haired, beautiful, mysterious kind of mean woman actress. Um, I try and keep my description as open as possible because I think people like fan casting when they read. Um, she was a tricky character because I knew that I needed to have somebody who was cold and cruel to my protagonist and a bad mom, which generally earns very little likability points. And so because of that, and because I'm a horror writer and I have horror readers, I needed to add something to that character to make her interesting, to give her layers and to give her texture. And so that's how she became a horror film star. Um, and there's some logistic reasons in the book, but I needed something to make her more compelling and to make the reader to give the reader a reason not to just straight up hate her.
It's really smart. She seduced us with her beauty. just
She
like
seduced you
recently.
with her beauty.
Sorry, I don't need to use the collective we, but I think other readers will agree. Like, just yeah, it is. I know that it's difficult to write that kind of like unlikable mother character, like writing a bad mom. It's like this recipe for instant unlikability from readers, but like the way that you wrote her was just very strategically done, and I'm just reading it like, ooh, so beautiful, so mean.
There had to be
uh,
something fun about her.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's just unpleasant.
that should go down on a note card. I'm sorry, like I'm not gonna do it right now because I'm
That's what I say
author,
about
but I'm
myself too. So
like I will watch this recording back on our YouTube channel and write that down. um Switching gears a little bit, I am interested to talk about seasonal reading. Um, because I know that around this time of year, and maybe this is like a hypocritical platform because you are indeed our October book club pick. Um, so like this happens to align with like a seasonal choice. But I know that, you know, a lot of posting on Instagram, Bookstagram, Book Talk. There's a lot of sort of like seasonal recommendations, and around this time of year, we do see a surge of horror readers, or like horror picks, thriller picks, um, and I'm curious in kind of having you make a case for reading horror year round, because horror isn't just a seasonal genre. You know, like it really is meant for all 12 months. So I was wondering if you would be willing to talk a little bit about that, and make a case to our October readers to not just let horror be an October read.
well, I appreciate that as a horror author. It is a challenge as soon as, I take advantage of all the spooky season reads hashtags. And then as soon as it's over, I'm like, every season is spooky season. I encourage people, there's a lot of people who are just fans of horror and read the genre all year. And then there are some people who just read it in October. I really think, taking myself out of the equation, this is an incredibly exciting time in the horror genre. And I think more people are coming to the genre and realizing that there is something for everyone. I am a former horror snob where I'd be like, oh, I like horror that's about something. But even now I like to pick up a slasher novel. There's a YA slasher series by Adam Cesare called Clown in a Cornfield. And I love those books. I love those books. There's more extreme horror, Maeve Fly by CJ Leede. Could be read in October because it's around Halloween. It's kind of pitched as a female American Psycho if Patrick Bateman was a Disney princess, like for a job, not in real life. But that book takes place in Los Angeles. So there's something like that's a good poolside read if you're going on vacation. If you like during the winter, a horror fantasy, House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson is kind of a vampire Elisabeth Bathory take, that I could see it takes place in a castle, and under a blanket would be a really good time. So if you read a horror book and you like it, there's really like something for everyone in the genre, and different levels of scary. If you're not big into scary, there's quote unquote quote cozy horror. So, and I think like it's just fun. I think just my only thing would be, don't not pick up a horror book in a different season because it's a horror book. If it doesn't interest you, don't pick it up. But I think if you're looking for something to read or in a reading slump and want to try something new, why not? You might find something that you love. So there's a huge variety, and it's not all pumpkins and horsemen. There's a lot going on that you could get into beyond Halloween. Like this book, like Black Sheep, takes place during the summer. It's hot, it's sticky, it's sweaty.
That's right. I love that answer, and thank you for providing the reading list as well. We'll link.
I'm
Yeah.
always happy to recommend books. Alma Katsu's The Hunger is a Donner Party horror book. Imagine that on a snowy day. Yeah, there's plenty.
It segues really nicely too into one of my other questions, which is, you're talking about how it's this sort of like great time for horror as a genre, and there's a lot of innovation and expansion. I'm curious to know if you've read anything lately that you're really excited about that's either come out recently or that our book club folks should keep their eyes peeled for. Maybe if they love Black Sheep and or your other books, or just stuff that you've been loving lately that you think should be on other folks' radar within the genre.
So I mentioned Maeve Fly by C.J. Leede. That is a, very fun original female protagonist. I love that book. Highly recommend it. Alexis Henderson's work is great as well. House of Hunger and Year of the Witching. A book I read recently that I was completely blown away by is The Militia House by John Milas. Speaking of horror as a genre, that like horror that's saying something, and a genre that a lot of innovation is happening in right now. That book blew me away. It's about a group of Marines who are in Afghanistan in 2013. I think. I've pitched this book before, and so I'm confidently stating these facts, but
it's hard to know what years, because we were there for so long.
And maybe 2010. Anyway, and their job is to unload cargo off helicopters. And near their base is a place called the Militia House, which is from a previous war in the area, and it's rumored to be haunted. And just the writing in that book is so extraordinary, and it completely transcends genre, and it's heavy. It's on the heavier side, so if like you have to be in the mood to be like, I want to read a book, like it has to like
to brace yourself.
Yeah, like you have to like really, but it's completely worth it. And This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. I kind of put those books in conversation with each other because I think they're two of the best novels that have come out, that I've read, that have come out in the last decade. This Thing Between Us is a horror novel about grief, and the quick pitch is like Haunted Alexa, but it's so much more than that. But those books, I think, just beyond, I wouldn't put my work in the same category as those works, but in terms of like what's happening at the horror genre in the horror genre right now, I think in terms of boundary pushing, those books are kind of at the top of the list for me. And then if you read those books and are like, oh my God, I need something lighter, Maeve Fly is super fun. The House of Hunger books aren't heavy. They're more fantasy and horror fantasy and fun. I'm trying to think what else.
Maeve Fly's been on my list for a long time. You told me about it. I got the last copy at the bookstore and I was so smug about it, and it's still in my like pile. I'm like, all right, I gotta move this up.
For dark academia, I'd recommend Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. That's a great one. It's It's more speculative than horror, but I'll claim it as horror because I love it. Basically the point is I will recommend books to anyone until I'm blue in the face. And yeah.
We will compile a list of these titles and we will send them out with our newsletter with links for the Jersey Collective Reads folks. And Rachel is really good about posting books that she reads and recommends on social media. So we will also include links to her socials as well, so you can follow her along there. Okay, I have other we're sort of like, I have one more like non-goofy question, and then we're like moving into like prime goof territory. Okay. So you are in the Library Reads Hall of Fame, correct?
Yes.
I'm curious. Twice.
Because if you get picked 3 times, then you're in the Hall of Fame. But if you get after that, you're in it again. That's your like a double Hall of Famer.
Really?
So I'm 4 for 4 right now. So I'm absolutely bricking it about my 5th book.
Wow. I mean, that's real author insight right there, everyone. It's not like, I'm so happy I'm 4 for 4. It's like, I'm dying over my
if I don't make it for the 5th one, yeah. That's a true Virgo middle child thing where it's like it needs to be perfect.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm a Virgo moon, Virgo rising, so I have some of that in me as well. Okay. Library Reads, 2-time Library Reads Hall of Famer. I'm curious about any New Jersey library experiences that you had growing up, any like beloved librarians, if you were a library girly. The other host of this, I was about to say podcast, not a podcast. The other host of this book club, Carrie Sullivan, is a librarian. So we love libraries here. And yeah, just curious to know about your sort of library affinity and any special library New Jersey stories you might have.
First of all, it's messing me up that I'm talking to you in like a professional capacity, because I never would have, if it was anyone else, been like, I'm a 2-time Hall of Famer, but because you're my best friend, I like, and then I was like, wow, I probably sound insufferable.
No,
usually I'm just insufferable in private.
No, it's shout out the fact that you're a 2-time Hall of Famer. I'm gonna tell everyone for you.
Oh God. I have a funny library story that I'm going to tell, because like otherwise it's just going to be like, I love the library, which I did. I grew up again in Mount Olive, New Jersey, and there was a library that was like two tiny round rooms, and one was the kids section and one was the adult section, and it was just very cozy. And they built our middle school next to it. Is a big box building, clunky. And then they built a new library like across the street. And I'm going to tell the story. It didn't happen to me, but it's a funny story. And it's way more interesting than me just being like, I love to go to the library. A close friend who we went to college with, you know who I'm talking about, very conscientious student in the 7th grade, asked our, I believe it was history teacher, if she could go to the library. The history teacher said, yes, you can go to the library. And apparently she had specified which library to the teacher. The teacher denies this because this friend of mine left school premises, left middle school, because she didn't want to go to the middle school library. She wanted to go to the public library, which was across the parking lot and over like a patch of woods. She left school premises to go to that library and got in trouble. So
I respect her.
She really belongs in the Library Reads Hall of Fame.
She's a Library Hall of Famer. in Mount Olive, at
Yeah, but
least.
that was the big library scandal. And then they built that new fancy library across the street, and that library was like so dreamy and like had like beautiful views of the woods in the back. And I bought a boy there on a date once, but I wouldn't kiss him there because it was disrespectful.
Wait, that's so cute. It's cute that you went on a date there, but it's also like extremely cute that you didn't want to like disrespect the books.
Yeah, that says a lot. First, I was like 15 at the time. Very
Like,
mature. Respect the library.
did the librarians who nominated you for the Hall of Fame know that you wouldn't kiss
They
them?
must know that I'm very respectful in a library.
It's giving like
I'm,
Larry
I'm,
David, do you respect wood? Like,
yeah,
respect library books?
I do. And I always on time return them.
Oh my God. Okay, you're the opposite of me. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that on this recording. My dad is like banned from our local library because he was so late with so many books, and then he went back years later and paid like $1,000 in late fees to clear his name. And now, sorry, I'm like slandering my dad on this recording. He's such a good library citizen now. He is like extremely timely. He moved and he lives very close to like
He
a different
changed his ways.
he
This is
turned
a
over a new leaf.
redemption story.
Sorry, it's a redemption story. He wiped the slate clean. Like he really did. I'm not making that up. Like he's a very good library patron now. But growing up, we had a lot of late books and a lot of late fees and a lot of
Oh,
like scrambling, dropping stuff off at the slot.
oh
Like,
no, I would have
yeah.
such anxiety. I would have anxiety leading up to like I needed to do it or days early, at least the day before. Because what if I put it in the slot and they don't see it and then they think I'm late?
Yeah, you're gonna be in the Library Hall of Fame forever. Don't worry about it. Like you're set. I didn't get kicked out of the library, but I would get shushed. I used to go with my best friend. We lived down the street from like the big branch, like the headquarters. And in high school, we would go to like study, which like we were supposed to be there studying. And she would be like, did you know that Judy Blume writes adult books too? And she would take me to the like adult Judy Blume section and make me read passages from Wifey out loud, like for as long as I could without laughing. And the librarians did not like that.
Well,
So
that's like an innocent shushing. That's like a sweet shushing.
have you read Wifey? It's very,
Yeah.
I know, I shouldn't have been reading that out loud in the library, but I don't know. The whole Price family is on library probation, I guess. And like, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame for life. You will always be famous in the library, Rachel. Um, okay. I'm so glad we're transitioning out of serious questions. Um, let's do some like rapid fire New Jersey questions. You mentioned weird NJ earlier.
Of
Um,
course.
I know you're a fan. Any weird New Jersey landmarks that you feel a particular affinity toward, slash like any, I would say like essential stops on the Rachel Harrison tour of New Jersey that if somebody were to go on this your tour of your home state could not be missed?
So in terms of weird New Jersey landmarks, the one that was closest to my house growing up was I think I want to call it hooker band lights. They're railroad tracks, and the guy with the hook for a hand, and you stand on the railroad at midnight and you see the light. Um, Shades of Death Road was a big one. We would drive down Shades of Death Road, me and my friends on a dark night. Um, get out of the car, wait to get murdered
Do you
by
have
ghosts.
flashlights?
No, just poke around. I'm trying to think. Gates of Hell, maybe. Um, and then in terms of like, if I like Jersey landmarks. The first one that came to mind was Hot Dog Johnny, Buttsville, New Jersey.
I was hoping you were gonna say that because I was gonna bring it up if you
I
didn't.
love Hot Dog Johnny's. It's just such a like special place. And they have the root beer and the frosty mugs and picnic tables. I love it. And then also my grandparents lived pretty much down the street from Washington headquarters in Morristown. So that feels very New Jersey to me. The Green in Morristown, all certain landmarks in Morristown, historical places in Morristown. My grandparents lived there. My mom and my aunts and uncles were raised there. And so whenever I'm in Madison too, my grandpa had an insurance office in Madison that I still call grandpa's work. And so Madison, apparently now Snooki has a boutique in Madison, but
Oh yes, she does. She also has one in Beacon, New York, which is so random.
good for her,
I'm happy. My sister bought a beautiful like sweater there. And I was like, where
I'm
is this from? She's like literally Snooki's store.
I'm going to grandpa's work next Wednesday, so to go across the street and see.
Check out the sweaters, girl. Let me know what's
So
there.
Morristown, Madison, Buttsville. Yeah. But yeah, my mom's from Morristown, my dad's from Boonton. So real. And
That's
then
a
I
real
grew up
Jersey. That's real Jersey right
Bud
there.
Lake. I also used to do plays at Pax Amicus Castle Theater in Bud Lake, which like is a theater that looks like a castle. And so like if you're driving around the lake, you can like look across and it looks like there's a castle there. Up close, not so much.
We expect like a theater kid horror castle theater.
Yeah,
Look.
castle theater. So there's
Love
lots of I I I love our state. There's so many unique little pockets. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I'm from there, but and then obviously Sandy Hook.
obviously. Love. Such a fan fave. Um, we had a good time. We visited Sandy Hook together and we saw a fox, which I guess like a lot of fox live there, but we had just watched the end of Fleabag
Fleabag season 2.
and it like really shook us to
And we
see
were
that
like,
fox.
oh my God,
Well, I
where is
hadn't
the hot
seen one since,
priest?
yeah, I hadn't seen one since I was a kid. And like I've seen many since because there's like, I don't know, there's a bunch of fox, there's like a fox family that like lives in Asbury Park, like on the beach. But I've seen a bunch since, but I hadn't seen one since I was a kid. And when we went to Sandy Hook, we saw a fox just like standing in the road. That freaked me out.
It was a gray day in January. It wasn't freezing, even though it was January, but it was just like gray and nobody was there. And it felt like we were wandering out of time.
Yeah, it was just me, you, and the lady who runs the house tour who like appeared in the window. We were like, this house museum looks closed. And then she was like, I don't know, there's a story there. Okay, we have a couple more minutes, so I have a couple more quick straight questions. Preferred Jersey Shore beach?
Don't judge me, but well, maybe Asbury Park now, but growing up it would be Seaside. That's where we always went.
Who's
Lucky
judging
Leo's.
you? Girl, live your truth. I'm not judging. Favorite boardwalk concessions?
Probably ice cream, soft serve ice cream.
Excellent choice. Are you
Big
like
ass slice of pizza.
Yeah. Oh, we love the big slice of pizza. Have you had, is it like Coors? I didn't
Yeah,
grow up
yeah.
with Coors for some
I
reason.
did. Yeah.
But like I now consume Coors. So it's very, I like it. Favorite game of chance? Is there like a carnival or boardwalk game that you are good at or will always try to be good at?
I will play skee ball at like Lucky Leo's forever. I also like at Lucky Leo's, they have this like little kid. They're not real slot machines. They're the like child friendly slot machines where you play with tokens. Yeah. I was like 12 going on 90 just sitting at this token slots.
I love this for you. Favorite New Jersey amusement park, which I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier.
Ooh.
Is that one your favorite?
For creep factor, yeah, I would like, I mean, if I went back now, it might be too overwhelming for me in terms of like there's children everywhere. Maybe Six Flags. I haven't been there for a while. I haven't been there since they built King Ka, I don't think. Maybe what's the other one? I feel like it starts with a T.
T.
What are all the New Jersey theme parks?
I feel like a bunch of them have like closed.
New Jersey theme parks.
It's trying to tell me Dorney. Like Dorney is not.
Oh, Dorney Park. I think that's what I was. No. Dorney is.
Dorney's in Pennsylvania, I thought.
Yeah. I think maybe you're right. Maybe I was thinking of Dorney though.
Dorney's great. They have Berenstain Bears Land, or they did the last time I was there. There's probably like Storybook Land. Is that? Yeah, that's in New Jersey.
I've never heard of that in my life.
Playland, Land of Make Believe.
That's the one. Probably Six Flags would be my favorite. I would go back to Six Flags. I wish they still had that Houdini ride though.
Wait, they took down Houdini?
I think so.
This is how I find out. The Houdini ride stood on the like cursed ground where all those people died.
For the haunted house ride. That
haunted house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My last question is, do you have any Halloween traditions that you are looking forward to participating in this year? Like favorite candy, things that you like to do, etc.
Just watch a scary movie and stay home and eat a bunch of candy. I don't know if I have a favorite. They have fun size peanut butter Snickers, but I haven't found them in a while. I hope they didn't stop making them, but those I think are my favorite.
That's a good pick. I thought you were going to say the like ghost shaped peanut butter cup.
That's good too. I like a Milky Way Midnight.
These are deep cuts. These are deep cuts, remix classics.
You know what I used to not get down with, but I get down with now? Malted milk balls.
Love. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoppers?
I wish it was still socially acceptable to go trick-or-treating.
Girl, same.
Our one friend is having a kid, so I need to like ship out and just use that kid every October.
100%.
She's not listening when they show up next time every October.
I'm tacking myself onto this. I'm like, I'm
trying
coming
to visit you.
We're coming to visit on Halloween.
Well, I also think it'd be awkward if like the kid goes up and I'm like, I'm Aunt Rachel, and I have my pillowcase too.
Just be like, I'm trick-or-treating for their brother. They're homesick. Put a little something in their pumpkin pail. But joke's on them because it's your pumpkin pail.
Yeah.
All right, we'll figure out a plan for next year after this child arrives.
Yeah. How can we use our friend's baby to our advantage?
I'm glad we're using this Zoom link to publicly conspire. I just want to thank you so much for your time. And I want to thank everybody who read the book along with us this month, Black Sheep. If you haven't read it yet, implore you with the second half of your month, please give it a spin. But it also doesn't have to be the second half of the month. It can be, as discussed, year round delight. But yeah, I really appreciate your time, and thank you again for regaling us with all of your New Jersey tales.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.